All right. Hello, Boys and Girls Club of Albany and Boys and Girls Club of America. Listeners and viewers, we thank you so much for joining us again on this Thursday on our Career on Wheels segment. Hey, today we have two wonderful young ladies that are making great strides in their career fields. And so we asked them to come on and share today in their expertise and field. As always, we want you to go ahead and like and share this post with your family and friends. Go ahead and make sure that others are able to see and hear the good jewels that'll be dropped today during this time frame. We want you to know exactly that Boys and Girls Club of Albany strives to promote and share with you wonderful people that are making great strides in their community and as well as in their career. So today we have two amazing young ladies that are coming on today. The first young lady is a lawyer. Her name is Miss Jaimee McDowell. Miss Jaimee McDowell is a lawyer, has her own practice. She is currently a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Incorporation, and also serves on various bar associations as well. And also we have none other than Miss Erika McFarland Williams, who is a native of Tallahassee, Florida. Miss McFarland is one of those people that is in law enforcement that you may not want to see unless it is on a good occasion. She is also a part of mentoring groups. She is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporation. And she's also real active and engaged in the law enforcement career field as well. So I want to bring both of these ladies on at the same time today. And as I do so, I want to create dialogue and conversation. I noticed that we have gotten a lot of questions back from a lot of our teams and listeners about what how to balance both of these careers and just interaction questions as well. So I'm going to ask now that we bring them on to share. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hello.
Hey,
Good.
it's so great to have you on today to share with us. As our team was designing you all's flight, they said, "Oh, they so stylish." And so you all enjoy the flight and listen. We have some amazing teams that work with us here. And as always, I like to brag on our class of 2020 students that have really made strides this year. And as always, salute out to you all as well. So I want to first start off just by allowing you ladies to introduce yourself. And I believe, as always, when you have an attorney and a law enforcement person, you don't know who to choose favors with first. So I'm gonna ask our attorney if she don't mind introducing herself.
Sure. My name is Jaimee C. Holmes. I am an attorney in Maryland. I have my own firm, which is the Law Office of Jaimee C. McDowell. When I created my firm, I wasn't married yet. So now that I'm married, my last name has changed. So it kind of throws people off a little bit. But I've had my firm in Maryland for about 9 years. I do a lot of criminal defense. I also do a lot of juvenile work. So the juvenile work I do is criminal defense when juveniles are charged with a crime. I also represent juveniles when they have issues at school with suspensions and things like that. I also do family law, so custody, divorce, adoption, that type of thing. And my last major area is what's called SINA, which stands for Child in Need of Assistance. These are cases where the Department of Social Services removes kids from the home, and I work with the parents to try and help them get their kids back. So that is the bulk of what I do professionally. I am a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. As a member of my organization, I also serve as our regional legal counsel. So I am the regional legal counsel for the Northeastern region of my sorority. And as a whole, our sorority focuses a lot on the youth. We were founded by school teachers. So I love working with youth. I love giving back to my community, and I'm excited to be here.
All right, and we're so excited to have you on as well. it's always good to have a good lawyer on your side. So, Miss Erica, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Okay, my name is Erika McFarland Williams. I am a senior law enforcement inspector with the Florida Department of Corrections Office of Inspector General, and I'm also on the Federal Violent Gang Task Force for the FBI. And I started my law enforcement career in Tallahassee. That's where I'm from. After 9/11. So I was sitting in class at TCC and watching the bombings and everything. And I thought, I have the perseverance and determination to actually be the person running into the building to save lives instead of running away. So I was the first class to graduate from the academy after 9/11. So I graduated in 2002. And I was recruited by Lauderdale Police Department in Fort Lauderdale to become a police officer. And I wanted a fast city, a busy city. And if you know anything about South Florida, it's a busy place to be. So I started my career there, and I stayed there, worked my way up from patrol officer to various different, I was a detective, property crimes. I moved up to major crimes. I was also community policing, which actually made me want to be a detective because I wanted to see the crimes through, not just be the first responder to take a report. Then I moved to, in 2010, actually 2012, my father had dementia, 4-stage dementia, and it was really bad. He lived in Tallahassee. So being a detective, being a police officer, I never got to go home. So I never took vacation, and pretty much my family was living their lives in Tallahassee, and I could only go home like on various holidays or if I took a quick vacation. So I decided to resign from Lauderdale Police Department and actually go help and be supportive with my family in Tallahassee. Within less than a month, I was hired with the Inspector General's office. And so I was excited about it because I was still able to be a detective pretty much. I do now administrative investigations. I do criminal investigations. We're one of the only agencies that do our own EEOC investigations. So with that, my knowledge just increased because from 2008 until now, I've only done investigations. I also became a Delta in 2010. I joined Broward County Alumni Chapter, which is a phenomenal chapter. And we do obviously a lot of work in the community, such as the lawyer said, pretty much the same thing. And I'm just excited to be here and to share what we can with these young people. I mentor young people all the time, especially with Delta, and not just Delta, with the Broward County School Board. And I love our young people. And I truly believe that if we can change just one, that you've changed a generation. So I'm excited about it, and I'm ready to see what you guys have to talk about today.
All right. So listen, you all have really, really sparked this conversation off on a good note. I really want us to, and you all be as open as you all would like to. Often tell our guests this is interaction with you all, and several teams from across America. Even now as we're talking, the furthest person that we have tuned in now is from Australia. And so we have people everywhere. So this is a nationwide platform, and several people from this platform have really found mentors. And so you all are an inspiration to many. So, with that being said, here's some of the questions that our teams have sent in. I have our teams to go and do research on you all, to be private eyes. And I send them your bios, and they read over them and compile questions. And so, one of the questions that one of our teams sent in to me: what parts of your job do you find the most challenging? And we can go with either person.
I'll go first. I would say right now, being a minority in law enforcement is so difficult because everybody expects for you to have a right now answer as far as everything that's going on social media. And being a detective, you're taught to actually do an investigation before you come to a conclusion. So I can't just look at like a 5-minute clip or something and say, oh, this officer is definitely wrong, or this person definitely resisted based on a 5-minute clip, just because of what I do as far as investigations. And then a lot of times with social media, they blow things up. But then again, it also spreads a lot of awareness that we need to know. So it's a very conflicting position to be in. I always tell people, like, don't, ask me a question on social media. Number one, there's so many social media policies with different agencies that you can't just put things out there and say certain things. We know that because a lot of officers have lost their jobs recently based on you posting your opinion from looking at whatever it is on social media. So I tell people, like, inbox me if you want to have a conversation about what's going on. I'm always willing to talk about, from my experience and even my investigative experience, what I believe happened in the video. But sometimes people say, oh, well, you post all these things, but you never post when it's something like, the thing with George Floyd and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, because in the position I'm in, you don't want to get goaded into a conversation where you're going back and forth with someone and then they say, oh, we're going to call your job and report you. I'd rather have a conversation with them privately. And then a lot of times people say, oh, okay, I didn't see it that way. Okay, I understand what you're saying, versus having a full blown, conversation on social media. Because like I said, it can go either way. People can get upset. Either you can agree to disagree, or people can get upset and now you've lost your job because you were just trying to answer a question on Facebook or, whatever social media platform there is.
And that's so true. That's so true about social media. It can hurt you or harm you. All right, Madam Attorney.
Repeat the question again. I was so captivated by what she was saying. I need to hear the question again.
So what parts of your job do you find the most challenging?
For me, the most challenging would be just helping people break down their preconceived notions of what they think is supposed to happen. A lot of times when I talk to people, it's, oh, well, this is what happened to my cousin, or my mom had this, or they're telling me what they read or what they found, and trying to explain to people, okay, that may have happened with your family member situation, but that's not necessarily what's going to happen with yours. Here's how your situation is different. Or, yes, that's a law, but you're not incorporating it the right way. So the hardest part for me is just, educating people. But I enjoy doing it. But at the same time, it is hard sometimes trying to explain to people what the process is, because it's not always clear. And as a criminal defense attorney, when I tell people, I represent criminals, their first thought is, I remember when I first started practicing law, I told someone, like, I want to do criminal defense. And they said, oh, so you're going to represent, bad guys and, the guilty people. Well, that's not exactly how it works. When people come into court, they're presumed innocent. So in the eyes of the law, the people I'm representing are innocent until a judge finds them guilty. And just trying to help people understand the process, they have to go to court. Someone has to bring charges against them. They have a right to provide a defense. The state has to prove that they've done these things. And there's a lot of steps before we get to, oh, this person is a criminal and this is what they've done. And then even what the steps look like after that. So for me, that's the biggest part of my job, is just educating people on what I do, what the system is, the good things and the bad things.
I have one more thing to say. I think also what's challenging with my position is that every county has a different state attorney's office. So something that the same exact charge that you may have on an individual in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, the state attorney may say, handle it internally. Versus if you have something up north in the panhandle that's not as busy, the system is not as convoluted, they may tell you, okay, that's a great case and we're going to prosecute it. And people feel like you're picking and choosing who you want to prosecute and who you don't. But a lot of times it's actually the state attorney's office, and it's not the individual police department, or the investigator didn't want to, arrest this person, or either, proceed criminally with the case. Sometimes, you need to look a little further, because it doesn't just stop at the agency. Sometimes it's who you elect in office, and that's just how it is.
And that's very true. I get that a lot too, and I've told people the same case. If you had gotten in trouble in a different county, we probably wouldn't have even been here, but you're in this particular county, and every county does things differently. In my busier counties, I expect most of my cases to probably get thrown out or, community service. And the counties that are a little slower and more rural, you're probably going to jail, or we're going to have to really fight to keep you out of jail because things are just done differently in each county. And sometimes it's hard for people to get that. It's one state. So, why is it when I'm on this side of the line, one thing will happen, but if I hop on the other side, something else happens.
Very different.
So you both talked about the areas in which you serve and how things are different based upon the different counties and cities. How many counties and or cities, or how would I phrase it? What percentage of area of South Florida do you serve, and what percentage of Virginia do you serve? Is it based upon the counties or regions that you serve?
Well, I'm in special investigation, so I can handle basically anything that the IG decides for that he wants to give me. But primarily, we serve from Orlando to Miami, like Homestead, Miami.
Okay.
And for me, as a private attorney, I'm licensed in Maryland, so I can practice anywhere in Maryland. Primarily, I focus on Southern Maryland because that's where I live. So that's Prince George's County, which is a predominantly African-American county, Charles County, St. Mary's County, Calvert, which are more rural, which are southern counties right up under Prince George's. So that's primarily where I focus. But, I've gone all over the place. It just depends on, where someone needs me to be.
Okay. So let's talk for a moment about and these next couple of questions, next three questions comes from ladies that are young ladies that are part of our organization. How quickly over the past 5 to 10 years have you seen the industry grow with women coming into your various career fields?
I'll say for me, it's been a lot. I see a lot of women coming into the legal industry. I've had a couple young ladies intern with me, as they're in law school and getting experience who are now attorneys. So from my perspective, in my area, I have seen more female attorneys popping up and wanting to do this and getting out there and in all areas of law, state's attorney's office, opening private practice. We're having more female judges come up in our county or in our area as well. In Prince George's County, the slate going forward for the elections in November, 4 female, I said 4 or 5. It's all women slate for the judges. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5. And then in Charles County, the county that I'm in, there's 2 judges going up and 1's female. So I am starting to see a lot more women in the profession.
Okay.
In the last 5 years, I wouldn't say it's necessarily an increase. In some cities, like individual cities in law enforcement, there's an increase, but as far as like the Inspector General's office or FBI, no, I haven't really seen an increase. And then a lot of times you see a lot of female officers, but they're on the streets. They're not in upper management, which is where the issues are. So I think we can definitely use, more diversity. And I would encourage any female that's, wants to pursue law enforcement to get into it. It's very easy to promote. You just have to pretty much work hard. But I would definitely say try to finish college first, because I did my bachelor's and my master's while I was working as a police officer and detective. And it's very difficult because now you're committed to the job. You're trying to prove yourself. So I would definitely say, if you can get because you don't have, it's not required to be a law enforcement officer. So a lot of times, if you don't want to go to college, they'll, gravitate towards law enforcement, military, corrections. But once you get into that field, it's so difficult to, get refocused back to your education. But when it's time to promote, that's when you want those extra points because you have the education behind you, and it definitely helps.
And that's good knowledge. Part of these young ladies that we have in our organization are really top-notch scholars. A part of our class of 2020 grads, out of the 13 grads, 10 of them have over a 3.5 GPA. So they are
That's
very
gorgeous.
smart scholars, dual enrolled students. They graduated with their associate's degree and high school diploma 2 weeks ago. So they are really, really on the track to doing major things. And so these questions come to them as a brain teaser and also motivation to determine whether to go directly into their career field and get their bachelor's, or to actually just stay on the track to get their bachelor's and then just continue to do internships and work study. So the next question is, what are some of the challenges that you have faced so far, that you would actually share as advice or wisdom, that you wish somebody would have told you from the start?
Me or go ahead, attorney.
I'm gonna let the
Um,
attorney share.
I
You
guess
know, us
for
law
me,
enforcement officers will delegate, so
I'll jump in first. I guess what I wish people had told me, and I wish I had done my homework a little bit more. I had seen TV, I thought I knew what it meant to be a lawyer. I'm like, oh, law and order, that I can do that. That looks like fun. And then I got to law school, and law school is a very different beast. So I think for me, if I had I think at this age, for anyone who's high school, middle school, even in college, take this time to sit down with people who do what you're interested in. And don't just pick one person, pick different people. Because the one attorney that I did speak to prior to going to law school was an older gentleman. So the way things were when he went to law school are going to be a lot different than someone who's going now. So that to me would be my biggest advice, is to talk to multiple people. Maybe you have a uncle or someone who does whatever you're interested in. That's great, but find someone who's a little younger who's doing it. Depending on what type of field it is, things change. The law field has changed, and how you handle things have changed. For example, the same attorney that I spoke with after I graduated, I was working with him, trying to get some experience. And he's so old school that all of his files were physical files. He didn't have an electronic system for keeping his files. And that's something I had to figure out on my own over time. Like, okay, this isn't working with the way the world is now. So I would just say, talk to people. I wish I had talked to attorneys who did different areas of law, because sometimes you don't know what you like. You think you like this one area, but maybe you find another specialization that you're interested in. So that would be my biggest advice, is to talk to as many people as you can that do what you're interested in. Shadow them, see if you can go with them to work, a couple days, and not just I think I have court this day. Find a day where they're sitting in the office, because that's part of the job too. So really try and get as much experience and see what that job is going to look like in real life, as opposed to, what you hear from your counselor. If you're an attorney, you can make this amount of money, and you should go to school and do this. Talk to people who've actually done it, because what I realized is, when you go to law school, you don't have to have an undergraduate degree in pre-law. And a lot of people feel like, I have to go pre-law for undergrad if I want to go to law school. You don't have to do that. My undergrad I double majored in criminology and psychology, and I did fine in law school. My best friend's a lawyer. She did pre-law. She did fine. But you don't have to do pre-law. So I again, just talking to people, as soon as you find out what you think you're interested in, talk to as many people as you can find.
I would definitely say, if you're going into law enforcement, go as soon as possible. The longer you wait, it's like the more extensive your background is. The more experimental you want to be as a young adult. And if you're wanting to, like, if you are definitely wanting to go to college, you already have a scholarship, something like that, definitely pursue college, because like I said, once you get involved in law enforcement, it's hard to kind of go into your education after that. However, if you don't want to go to college and you do want to pursue law enforcement or corrections or something like that, go as soon as possible, because once you get those experiences, like, oh, I tried marijuana, or I was in a car with a friend that got pulled over for something, all of these things come up once you pursue law enforcement. So if you definitely are dead set on going into law enforcement and you don't want to go to college, I would say put your application out there. You can even put yourself through the academy, so that you can have a choice, like I did. I didn't necessarily want to work for Tallahassee Police Department or a sheriff's department. I wanted to go where I wanted to go. And so luckily for me, when you're in the academy, all these agencies come and actually solicit, hey, you're graduating soon. Are you employed yet? You're not employed. And then they say, hey, come do a ride along with me or something like that and see if this is a city that you would be interested in, versus you getting hired with TPD. Now you have to work for them for at least a lot of times 2 years before you can move on. But I would say if you're going into law enforcement and you don't have a scholarship or you don't have a direction after high school, either going to corrections or go and put in your applications, because the sooner you can get hired, the less baggage you have for them to go through, once they start doing your background. All those bad influences that you had and all those people that you associate with, all that stuff comes up when they do a background for law enforcement. So the more you are focused, normally right out of high school, or if you, like I said, if you're not going to the military or directly to college, plus you got a retirement. And I didn't think of that right out of high school, but with the state, it's 30 years. Who wants to work 30 years? Law enforcement is high risk. So a lot of times you only have to work 20 years and you out. I'd rather work 20 years at the age of 24 and 45. I can retire and move on to a second career instead of going in at 25, 30 years old. Now you got to work the rest of your life because you're trying to have a retirement. So if you're not focused on, like I said, going to college or having or already have a scholarship, I would definitely say if corrections or law enforcement is something that you want to do, go ahead and get into it. Get those years under your belt. And at 45, 50 years old, that's why all these law enforcement officers, you see, they have one retirement and they're working at another little small, town with just a couple cops. The job isn't that stressful. And this would be their second retirement. So definitely if you're not, like I said, pursuing a college career right away and you want to go on law enforcement, go ahead and step out there and get your foot wet.
All right, and those are great tips as well for anybody, especially when you're looking into a career field. I tell our teens all the time that it's my goal to retire by 30. And so every day I'm making strides to that attorney. I ain't doing it illegal. So y'all won't have to come look for me. But taking the investment and really, really building yourself, networking. I hear a lot of networking that takes place at the academy. And so just making sure that you are on the right pathway and keeping watch of your surroundings, because you never know what may come back to hunt you. So let's talk for a moment about the technology piece of your jobs. I heard you mention attorney about one of the mentors that you was shadowing, and how he was a paper man and transitioning from keeping everything on paper to then electronically. What advice would you share with teens now about how to monitor their social medias and be careful what they endorse and share and like, um, because of the careers that they are going to be pursuing down the road?
Um, there's a quote, I think it goes, dance like nobody's watching. But as attorneys, we say, draft an email as if everybody's going to read it in open court one day. So that's my advice to people. Anything that you put out on social media, be prepared to have someone see it. If that's not who you are, what you represent, don't put it out there. And you just have to be mindful of that. Everyone has access to Facebook and Instagram and all the different social media platforms. And especially in today's society, all the videos that we're getting and clips of, this person said something racist or this person did something racist. Everybody's watching you and everybody's waiting to see you mess up. Nobody wants to share when you're doing something great, but as soon as they find that you've done something wrong, the whole world will find out about it. And I know, kids, we say and do things, I get that, but you have to be careful. You just have to be careful, at any age, especially our youth, with what you allow yourself to be, pulled into. If somebody posts something and it's not really appropriate, don't like it, just ignore it, keep it moving. Don't post something that might be inappropriate, thinking, oh, well, my parents will never see this, or this is my fake, page and no one knows, and somebody knows that that's you, and it'll work its way back to you. And it's just easier to not put it out there than have to come back later and explain it away or apologize for it. So you just have to be mindful about what you're putting out there on social media, because people have access to it. Unless you have a private account and no friends, and you just have this account sitting out there, which wouldn't make sense to just have an account that no one has access to unless you just want it. But, you know, someone's going to see it. And even if it's just your friends who have access to your page, they may share it with somebody, or a friend of theirs may see it that, you know, isn't necessarily your friend, and now it's out somewhere. So just imagine whatever, when I post things on social media, I'm thinking my parents are going to see this, because my parents are on social media. So is it something that I can, you know, explain to my parents? Is it something that I would be embarrassed about if my mom asked me about it, or if my dad asked me about it, or if they commented on it? I even try not to use curse words, you know, because I know my parents are on there. So, you know, you have to be thoughtful when you're on there. Who's going to be able to see your page? And in today's society, I've applied for jobs and they've asked me, you know, what's your social media name, or, you know, what's your Instagram name? When you're applying for colleges and law school, they ask you for that. What's your social media? And they look at stuff like that. That was one of the first things that we learned in law school. We came in for orientation, and that was part of the orientation was be careful what you put on social media, because when you go to apply for these jobs with the law firm, if you've put all kinds of inappropriate, crazy things on there and they see it, they're not going to want you, you know, working at their law firm. So you've got to be mindful, because it will come back and bite you in the butt in multiple ways. I've had cases, you know, where I represent juveniles, and I'm in court, you know, showing them the evidence that I have. And I'm like, well, here's a screenshot of an Instagram account that they're saying is yours. And there's a picture and it looks like you. Yeah, that's me. And this is your Instagram account? Yeah, that's my account. All right, well, now we're here in court because you thought you should post this on Instagram. So it does happen. And I'm sure when we let our investigator jump in, she's going to piggyback right on that. That's part of what they do. They're looking for that stuff. They're going to look at your social media. I look at people's social media. I've had other attorneys contact me and say, hey, your client posted something on social media. And I'm thinking, why are you looking at my client on social media? You know, I think that's everyone's first go-to these days when they're trying to evaluate and figure out who this person is. What can I find about them on social media or online? So it whatever you've got out there, somebody's going to find it at some point. It's not going to stay hidden.
And I would say, as far as technology goes, it's also, everybody has cell phones now. Everybody wants to record something. So fortunate for us, it's great because we use it, like she said, as evidence against the person or evidence to clear the person of what's going on as far as like an officer that's accused of something. But the problem is, it's not just what you post, it's what your associates post. You know, you may not even know that you're in a video at a club doing something unethical, and it comes up and it's like it's sent to your agency and you didn't even know that that video was out there. You know, so you not only have to be conscious about what you post and what you're doing on your own social media page, but also what your associates and your friends are doing. And I cannot stress enough, you need to know your social media policy concerning your agency that you work with, because even though we may not see it, you pissed off the right person in your agency and you'll be amazed at how this video all of a sudden got sent to internal affairs. You know, so it's very important to not only govern your social media appropriately, especially if you're going into law enforcement, but also your friends that you associate with, because you want them to be of good moral character as well, as best you can. Because all those things, especially like when you're trying to get on with law enforcement, the best thing to do is not even have a social media page, because the digging will start. And we have to do our job. You wouldn't be a good investigator. You wouldn't be a good background investigator if you miss something, you know, because people be like, wow, how did this person become a police officer? And they were a gang member like 2 years ago. And next thing you know, all of a sudden emails start getting sent to that agency and you don't get selected, and you're kind of confused as to why, because you're just going to get a standard letter, you know, that you wasn't chosen. But most likely it was because, you know, the things that were posted on social media, or, you know, like I said, you're associating with the wrong crowd in the city that you live in. So it's very important to be aware of that type of stuff when you determine, okay, I want to go in law enforcement, I want to go in corrections, I want to go to be an attorney, I want to be a nurse. All those careers, your character plays a big part in if you actually get the job or not.
And that is so true, even for us. For our organization, there still is some research and background that goes into looking into your social media. And I tell our teams all the time to be careful of what you attach your name to, and to be careful of always being the first to want to record something, because those type of things come back to hurt you. Technology has advanced so much that you can be sitting somewhere and somebody does something to your phone and it's leaked everywhere. And so to always be careful of your surroundings and what you are attaching your name to. So let's talk for a moment about, you shared earlier, the both of you, about what sparked your interest in becoming, going into your various career fields. But how do you find balance between family and work, and everything else that you have going on in your careers?
Balance. What is this work-life balance that you speak of? Um, God, it's hard to answer just from the standpoint of with everything going on, it's changed. Prior to COVID, what work-life balance looked like was different for me. Since COVID, I have been at home. Here in Maryland, the courts have been closed since about March 16th. So we've all been sitting at home, waiting for the courts to open. The courts are now open limited. So I've been doing virtual hearings now for probably the last month. I have virtual hearing tomorrow. I think I had one this morning. I'm not even sure when I'll physically be back in court again. So work-life balance for me now, working from home, means I need to take breaks. I'm at home, I'm in my office. I don't have to worry about driving to court because it's on my computer. I just turn it on. So I find myself working more now than I used to because everything's right here. I'm in my office. When I'm done with this, I can hop back on my computer and do some more work. I don't have to worry about, man, I got to be in court. I got to hop in the car and drive to court. So for me, work-life balance now looks like I have to stop and take lunch, or sometimes I'll just stop and I'll take my dog for a walk around the neighborhood and coming back. So it's just taking breaks because it's so easy to get caught up in what you're doing. You have to force yourself. And as an attorney, there's always a deadline. There's always a client calling who wants, I need you to redraft this, or I have this question. Everybody's issue is so pressing to them, which is understandable. If you're going through a divorce or a criminal case that's important to you, you want a response immediately, it's pressing to you. But as the attorney, I know, okay, this may be pressing you right now, but there's nothing we can do about this. We got to wait till we go to court, or we've got a timeline or a deadline. So it's just learning to understand that you're dealing with a group of people who are on 10. They're stressful. Very rarely are people hiring attorneys for a happy situation. When I do adoptions, that is the only time I go to court and I'm happy and I'm excited and everyone's happy because it's an adoption. Everything else, it's someone stressed out about a criminal case or divorce. So for me, it's understanding that my clients are already stressed out and not putting stress on them, while at the same time not taking on the stress that they're dealing with, and making sure that I find time. I probably will take my dog for a walk when I'm, done with this, just to get out, get some fresh air, take a break, come back in, hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, as a young police officer, my work family life balance was totally terrible because I was out trying to be the best young, educated police officer that I could be. I wanted to definitely get a college career. My whole thing was I want to be a homicide detective, so I'm going to prove to everybody that I'm worthy of this position. So I would work and work and work, and I would take extra shifts. And even when I wasn't assigned to the detective bureau, I would go volunteer to go and work, with them so that I could see what they were doing. I was very goal oriented when it came to my career. And I missed out on a lot as far as, kids and things of that nature. So Definitely younger. I had some issues. Now that I'm older, I have a little more balance. I'm still a workhorse. Like I will come in and work countless hours. And then on Saturday, because when you're an investigator, and I'm pretty sure the attorney can tell you, your mind is always going, especially when you have a good case going on. So even when you're home with your family, you're constantly thinking, did I do this? Could I have done this better? Did I talk to this person? Let me reread this thing I sent out, you know? So, because at the end of the day, like she said, you want to give out your best product of yourself. So you're most critical of yourself. And then when you're a minority and when you're in these positions, you definitely want to be looked at a certain type of way. So you want to make sure that my stuff is just as good as everybody else's warrants or everybody else's, education or whatever it is that they're doing at the time. So I think now that I'm a little older, 43, and I've been doing this for 18 years, I'm a little more settled and I can adjust better, to, okay, I can take the weekend off. And even if my mind is still going on this case, I'm not going to go to the office. I'm not going to take my laptop home because it's going to be there when I get back on Monday. Like I said, when you're young, you're still trying to prove yourself. And that's a lot of stress on yourself. And so you gain weight, you're not eating, properly. Your home life is jacked up, because you're not spending the time that you need to nurture it and make it a good family life. But the older you get and the more, now I have my education, now I have, the career, now I can focus more on, building this family life that everybody else had when I was still out there hustling, trying to become somebody. So you definitely have to find a balance. And it's not easy, but the sooner you find it, the better, the better your career is going to go. Because if your home life is in a rut, then your career, even though you may be thriving, but it's still not a complete, it's not whole. So, and religion plays a good part in that as well. You got to have a balance. You got to know God. You got to have a strong family background. Because even though me being in South Florida, my family being in Tallahassee, I don't get to see my family as much. But just knowing the foundation that I grew up with, my mom, I can still hear conversations with my mom, conversations with my dad, conversations with my grandfather, just saying, I'm proud of you, and, they never thought that you were going to be a police officer. But when I graduated from high school, I wanted to be a judge. So I thought I was making these little strides to become that. But then when I got in the ground level positions, I liked it here because you're helping the people that a lot of times wouldn't get help. You're the voice for a lot of people, especially in prison, that wouldn't get justice because of the fact that, they're in prison and no one really wants to hear from an inmate, but at the end of the day, it's our job to make sure that that person gets justice as well. So you got to find that balance because, like I said, if not, you're stressed out, you're fatigued. You can leave work and go home and your home life is a mess. So you don't even want to be home. So you come back to work. So it has to be a balance and you got to figure it out. Rather it's counseling or rather it's through a healthier diet or just putting things in perspective. And that's what happened for me. I had to put things in perspective as far as my home life is my home life and my work life. Even though I want to be the best police officer, law enforcement detective I can be, at the end of the day, I'm not happy if I have to go home and my home life does not have a balance. So you got to find that balance. And like I say, the quicker you find it in your career, the better off and the most successful you will be.
And I'll just add in, find a hobby. When I first started practicing law, someone said, oh, you've got to find a hobby. You've got to find something that helps you unwind. And I laughed it off and I'm just like, okay. But now I'm like, okay, I need to find a hobby. Like I've got to find something. You have to find something that will help you relax and take your mind off things. And for me, I wish I had a better work-life balance when I first started out because like the investigator was saying, I'm working. I'm taking, all these extra shifts and I'll take that and I'll do that and I'll take this case because I'm trying to get my name out there and I want people to see me. But what I found is when I actually take the time to, take the dog for a walk or go out and do whatever my hobby is, which is going to be photography. I got a GoPro last year. So I've had some fun playing around with my GoPro and taking some pictures. Now. Right. And I find when I come back home after I've done that, I feel so relaxed. I sit down at my computer and I'm more productive. Once I allow myself to just unwind a little bit, turn it off, hang out with my husband, go for the walk, take some pictures. when I come back to do the work, I'm a lot more relaxed and I'm a lot more focused. And I feel like my work product is better. So, the balance is important, for all the reasons that the investigator stated: your health, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. But it will make you better, whatever it is that you want to do. When you give just like when you work out, you can't keep working out every day. At some point, you've got to let your body rest, recharge, and then you go back out and work out. The same thing with working. You can't run all the time. You've got to find ways to, I'm not working today, I'm going to take a 3-day weekend if I can, or I could volunteer for this extra thing, but maybe I'm not going to do it this time because I could use that time to kind of unwind or spend time with my family. So it is a conscious decision, and it's hard. We're all wanting to do well in our profession. And, I do think that it's a good thing and a bad thing for, young African-American women and men. We have this mindset that we have to be superstars. We have to do the best. We have to be the best. We have to give 100% all the time. And on the one hand, it is true to some extent. We really do have to be, on our game compared to some of our counterparts. But you do have to also factor in, all right, I got to take a break. I can be on 10, on point 4 days this week, but, Friday, I got to scale it back a little bit. Or I can give you Monday through Friday, but I've got to keep my Saturday. I've got to keep my Sunday, put those things in place and hold on to them, because things will pop up. In law school, I told myself, I'm not working on Sunday. It's God's day. I'm going to rest. God rested. I shouldn't have to work on Sunday to do well. Like, I'm going to take this day to rest. And it was fine. And it was hard because I kept thinking, no, I should be working. I should be doing more. But I found that when I took the time to rest, it helped me get through the rest of the week.
So, and rest is one thing that I've learned to balance at 26. I tell you, rest is so important. I literally used to work 11-hour days, so longer. And so I'm learning to rest and balance. Even with no matter how many organizations I'm a part of, I've started to balance out and really structure what organization need, what meeting can I make this week, what meeting can I miss this week, and just really find that balance. And I think, like you both have said, trying to prove yourself at a young age really gets and weighs a lot on you when you're trying to really stand out and really make strides in your career field. And so I really think those are really rich jewels for our teenagers to really take heed of now. And so I want to ask any closing remarks or words that you all would like to share to all of our listeners and viewers, and especially our teens.
I'll just say I encourage you to follow your dreams. It's easy to look at life and be discouraged, especially with the state of our country right now between COVID and racism and police brutality and everything going on. I get that it's easy to become disheartened and lose that motivation, but I would encourage you to stay motivated. There's nothing wrong with whatever it is that you want to do. You just got to make it happen. Find people. There are people out there who want to help you. If the first person you talk to doesn't want to help you, that's fine. Find somebody else who does, because unfortunately, that's a part of life. Not everybody is going to want to help, but there are so many more people who do. You just got to put in the work and keep looking. My door is always open. If anyone's interested in becoming an attorney and just wants to ask questions or, get some more information, you can always reach out to me. I just encourage you to follow your dreams and don't give up. Just keep pushing forward. Find people who are going to support you. Like I said, if the first person you tell, hey, this is what I really want to do, and they're not really supporting you, that's all right. Find somebody else that you can talk to, because that's a part of life, but don't let that knock you down. Just keep pushing forward.
I would definitely I would definitely say don't let social media, things that, your cousin or, friends, sometimes family members as well, tell you about law enforcement. If that's what you want to do, pursue your goals. They need to be more people like me, more people like you in the profession. If we can have all these different opinions about law enforcement. But if you don't get involved, it's just like politics. If you don't vote, if you don't become a police officer, if you don't make sure when you're voting, know the candidates you're voting for, you can't affect change. So if you want to be in law enforcement, you want to be in corrections, you want to be in the FBI, whatever, don't let people discourage you. Don't let what you see on social media discourage you from wanting to be in law enforcement. That's the only way we're going to be able to make a difference. That's the only way. Changing laws, getting involved in your community. And then as far as if you want to become a law enforcement officer, start early. Like I said, if you're a senior in high school and you already know that you don't want to go to college, fortunately, law enforcement and corrections is that career path that you don't have to have education other than a high school education. So go ahead and step out, become a law enforcement, go to the academy, become a law enforcement officer or a corrections officer. And so, because you have to think about your future, you don't want to work until you're 60, 70 years old. They keep bumping the retirement age back further and further. You know what I mean? So you don't want to be 50 years old and have to work on somebody's job unless you want to. So the sooner you get involved, the sooner you start your career, the sooner you can have a retirement and move on to a second retirement. But don't let these things on social media, all officers aren't bad officers. I'm definitely not a bad officer. However, and a lot of my friends aren't bad officers, but you do have those bad apples that are in the department that may discourage you from wanting to be in law enforcement. But if that's what you want to do and you're committed to that, we welcome you. You can make a difference. I'm pretty sure you'll post our information, our contact information. If anybody needs any advice on how to get involved, like the attorney said, do ride-alongs, and look into your career path. Don't just choose something because somebody else is doing it. Be a leader, and that's what we need. We need people that's going to be a leader. We need people that's going to affect change. The only way you can affect change is stepping out there. I did it, and 18 years later, I'm still happy with. I would not do anything else but be a law enforcement officer. And I'm a very proud officer. So, like I said, if that's the career path that you want to go in, go for it. We welcome you with open arms.
Hey, listen, you all have shared so much knowledge that y'all have helped me out. I tell them each week this blesses me more than I think them, because I have my phone here and I've been taking notes. Just words of wisdom, and like I tell people every week that comes on this platform, you all don't know how much you all are impacting teens and children all across America. Whereas before COVID, they may not have had a chance to reach out to people and really hear personal testimonies and stories, and now they're getting a chance to hear those one-on-one conversations and submit questions and to gain answers. And so say thank you to each of you for taking time out of your schedule to come on today and share with us.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much for having me.
Hey, no problem. I know you all have a lot of work to do, so I'm not going to hold y'all much longer today, but we want to say thank you all so much on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Marvin Laster, from coming on and sharing with us today.
Of
No
course.
problem.
And you all have a good rest of your day now.
You
Thank you.
too.
All right.
Bye.
All right, so I hope you all enjoyed today's segment. Listen, the jewels that was dropped by our attorney and our law enforcement officer, Miss Erika McFarland, they were really, really informative. As always, I ask that you fill out the Google Form survey and submit any feedback that you would like to share with us today. And going forth, if there's any other career speakers that you would like to recommend as well. Listen, hey, you just experienced another Boys and Girls Club of Albany Career on Wheels segment. And continue to have a wonderful, productive Thursday. It's almost Friday, and you still have so much work to accomplish, but don't overload yourself. Take time to relax, enjoy yourself, and remember that today's assignment may be able to be put off to tomorrow, but don't delay it forever. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you on Tuesday for our college talk.